information technology. Currently, I'm seeking for job opportunities where I'm aspiring for a SOC role. Aside that, I'm a CTF player with a Freaks team. I like to think around with open source projects, build stuff on my home lab and stuff like that, basically. Okay. So I think we can get started. So what is digital forensics? Probably someone in the chat can tell us what digital forensic is in a layman's language. Anybody? I hope we can have an interactive session. So probably someone can just say in the chat, or you can unmute your audio and tell us what you think digital forensic is and what it entails. Anybody? Okay, so I think I'm going to proceed. So digital forensics in a layman's language is a preservation, identification, extraction, and documentation of computer evidence which can be used in a court of law. So on this slide, we've talked about computer evidence, and I'll take you to the next slide where I'll talk about what a digital evidence is. So a digital evidence, or rather digital evidence, which is also known as electronic evidence, is data or information that exists in a digital format, and it can prove or reveal the truth about a crime, and it can be relied upon and used in a court of law. Okay, but then how can this digital evidence be permissible? Like, how can it be acceptable in how can it be deemed acceptable in a court of law? So for digital evidence to be acceptable in court, its security and extraction methods must ensure that its characteristics adhere to the rules of digital evidence. And we'll talk about that in the next few slides. So digital evidence, like any other evidence, it is something that can be tampered with, okay? So all evidence which has been collected and put through some form of, all evidence has to be collected and put through some form of process before it's presented in a courtroom, okay? So digital evidence basically must be authentic, whether permissible or not in a court depends on how the evidence was obtained, its handling methods, and documentation of its chain of custody. So chain of custody is a term that I'll talk about in the next slide. Basically, at every stage, it must be, let's say, ascertained that evidence has not been altered in any way, okay? So we have talked about digital evidence. Now we can probably look at two main rules which govern the admissibility of digital evidence in a court. We have legality of acquisition, and we also have digital evidence handling, okay? So the first rule basically, it involves establishing whether the evidence was obtained with the appropriate authorization. And what do I mean by authorization? Our authorization tools, for example, includes things like warrants, consent, and exigency. So I'll give you an example. Let's say the police obtain a warrant to search an office, okay, while investigating some sort of fraud, okay? Then Jim, just a random member of staff, knowing his innocence in the matter, willingly gives consent to the forensic investigators to further search his home computer. And during this search, child pornography was discovered on Jim's home laptop computer. So, and with probably the increase in number of cases of pedophile crimes in the area, the situation proved exigent enough for investigating Jim more thoroughly. Okay, I don't know if that's clear. Probably the talk today is gonna sound a bit, let me see. I'm gonna use a lot of words that are used in the court of law. So I'll be explaining a few of these terms as we proceed. We also have the second rule, which is digital evidence handling. And digital evidence can be volatile, okay? So, and any mistake in handling the information or devices can give the defendants, grounds to nullify it, okay? So a proper system of chain of custody and processes must be observed and maintained at all times, okay? So basically, forensic experts, they have specialized tools and methodologies that they use when copying contents, for example, of a hard drive, for example, and in which an exact image of the drive is obtained, thus preventing any form of changes to data. And let's say, for example, a typical inexperienced IT person, the way he'd copy data, let's say from a hard disk to another hard disk for investigation, it's totally different from how a forensic expert will handle that, because let's think of an inexperienced IT guy. He will probably just go to File Explorer, then start copying files one by one to another disk or hard drive. And that's not the correct way of handling data, because in the process, some metadata may change and stuff like that. So that's on the two main rules that govern digital evidence. We've talked about the chain of custody before, but what really is the chain of custody? It's a common term you'll hear in the forensic space. And this is a series of documents basically that describes piece of evidence. It's used to keep track of evidence and ensure its integrity throughout the forensic investigation. I think I'll show you two templates of how a chain of custody document looks like. But before that, maybe I can explain a little bit about it. This document, basically, it's a template. You can easily get it online when you Google, and it will differ according to the law enforcement agencies from different geographical regions. However, some information is necessary, such as time and location of collection, details of collected evidence, and the reason why a piece of evidence was collected. I think I can show you a sample chain of custody form. I don't know if you can be able to see. I'm currently presenting on a Word document. Can you be able to see it?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, awesome. So this is just a random template I downloaded. I think it's from NIST. You'll get this kind of a form. It's like a 2-page form, and it has some of the details I've talked about. Basically, a forensic investigator will come in and fill in stuff like the case number, the offense, the victim, the suspects, the date and time the piece of evidence was seized, and the location where the piece of evidence was. Then we can proceed to see, we have a table here. Let's say piece of evidence was a desktop computer, or let's say a laptop computer, a laptop. So forensic investigator will come in here and say something like HP laptop, let's say a HP folio book. How many pieces of the HP? It was, let's say, only one that was collected. Then in this other field, forensic investigator will put in details like the model number for the laptop, the serial number, the condition of the laptop. Let's say, for example, it was a brand new laptop. It was a maybe dented laptop. It didn't have a certain keys. It had some sort of scratch marks and stuff like that. Yeah. And so this is basically one kind of a chain of custody form, and they exist in different formats. I'll probably show you another one. This is another one that you can easily get online. It's pretty much the same to what I had shown you earlier. See, we have the company name, we have the company address, we have the inspector name, inspector signature, phone, dates, and the device that was found, who is in charge of the investigation, it was received at what time and by who, and their signatures. Okay, so basically that's how a chain of custody tracking form looks like. Some chain of custody documents may contain information of several evidence items, and in such a document, the quantity and description of the item may be added. In some cases, you'll find forensic investigators, they will also include stuff like photos and attach them to this document so that they can be able to produce the evidence in a court of law. I think that's pretty much on the chain of custody form. So I'll jump in on the next item, which is the Locard's exchange principle. So there was this doctor who was called Edmond Locard. He was one of those pioneers in forensic science. And Dr. Edmond formulated this basic principle of forensic, whereby it states that every contact leaves a trace. Okay, so it's generally interpreted by people as with contact between two items, there will be an exchange. Okay, so what does this principle, or how can we allude to this principle in cybercrimes? So let's take an example involving a cybercrime involving computer networks, such as identity theft. We have electronic bank fraud, and we have denial of service attacks. And even if the perpetrator does not physically come in contact with the crime scene, they may make virtual contact with the crime scene through, let's say, use of proxies, and definitely they will have to leave their trace behind, which is digital evidence that forensic investigators can use to their advantage. And maybe to illustrate the application of this principle, let's take an example of identity theft. Yeah, so where someone's identity is stolen, and the perpetrator intends to use the stolen information for criminal gain. Let's also suppose that the perpetrator steals the identity through something like, let's say, a Trojan horse or a keylogger on the victim's computer. So one could argue that during this type of cybercrime, this principle does not apply. But the rationale is that because human is not at the crime scene, there's no trace evidence from the human on the computer or digital media at the scene. However, in actuality, there may be lots of digital evidence, such as the Trojan horse itself, let's say changed passwords, digital logs, and so on. So in this example, there's a trace at, to, and from the scene. It may involve finding the trace evidence at other physical locations than just the one scene of the crime. The keylogger will be added software or hardware or both, but in both cases, it remains behind for investigator to discover this. Okay, so this principle is kind of important to understand when you are in the forensic field. And we'll now look at some of the common use cases where digital forensic science can be applicable. Yeah, so we have cases like investigating intellectual property theft. We have industrial espionage. We have bankruptcy investigation. We have employment disputes. We have fraud investigations, be it financial in the financial sector or the business sector. We also have inappropriate use of the internet and email in the workplace. Let's say, for example, an employee has been suspected to be exfiltrating or maybe let's say selling company or company data to competitors and stuff like that. So digital forensic will come in handy in such a scenario. And we also have issues to do with regulatory compliance. Okay, these are just a few use cases. There are pretty many out there. We have investigations of stuff like child pornography and so on and so forth. So I'll take you to the next slide where I'll be talking about the 5 basic processes in digital forensics. So we have the first one, which is identification. We have preservation. We have analysis. We have documentation, and we also have presentation, which is kind of like the hardest part. So we have identification. In this phase, basically, it's basically the process. The process includes things like what evidence is present, where the piece of evidence is currently stored, and lastly, how it's stored, like in what format. Okay. So in the preservation process, we have investigators isolating, securing, and preserving the data. And this includes preventing people from possibly tampering with the piece of evidence. Okay. So we have the analysis phase or the process. And in this stage, the analyst or the investigators reconstruct fragments of data, and they draw conclusions based on the evidence they found. And in the documentation phase, we have the investigators will now create a record of all data in order to create the crime scene. Okay. And the last step is presentation. And presentation is whereby they will summarize and draw a conclusion, write reports, and present this in the court of law. Maybe this is a bit too broad, but I can narrow it down into 9 phases. And these 9 phases, we have first response. This is basically the action performed right after the occurrence of the security incidents. And it is entirely dependent on the nature of the incidents, really. Okay. So we have the second phase, which is search and seizure. And this phase, the professionals will search for devices involved in carrying out the crime, whereby they will, these devices are carefully seized and or acquired to extract information out of them. Okay, so we also have the third phase, which is collecting the evidence. In this phase, after the search and after the third phase, the professional will use acquired devices to now start collecting the data. And they will basically have well-defined forensic methods for evidence handling. Remember, evidence should be carefully handled to avoid tampering. Okay. So in the fourth phase, which is securing the evidence, the forensic staff now should have access to a safe environment where they can secure the evidence and determine if the collected data is accurate, authentic, and accessible. Okay. So under the fifth phase, which is data acquisition, this is basically the process of retrieving ESI, which is electronically stored information from suspected digital assets. Yeah, and it helps to gain insights into the incident while an improper process can alter the data. That's sacrificing the integrity of the evidence. We'll keep talking about the integrity because it's a key aspect in forensics. So we also have the sixth phase, which is data analysis. This is the fun part, and also kind of the hard part, whereby under the analysis phase, the accountable investigators now start scanning the acquired data in order to identify the evidential information that can be presented now to the court. And this phase is about examining, identifying, separating, converting, carving data, and modeling data to transform it into useful information. Okay. We also have the seventh phase, which is evidence assessment. In evidence assessment, it's basically the process of, it relates to evidential data. Yeah, this process of evidence assessment relates the evidential data to the security incident that happened. So there should be a thorough assessment based on the scope of the case. We have the eighth phase, which is about documentation and reporting. And in documentation and reporting, this is more of post-investigation phase that basically covers the reporting and documenting of all the findings. Yeah, so the report should have adequate and acceptable evidence in accordance to the court of law. And lastly, the last phase is testifying as an expert witness. Yeah. So what normally happens is in this phase is the forensic investigators will now approach the expert witness to affirm the accuracy of evidence. But then, what's an expert witness? Anybody who has an idea what an expert witness is? Anybody? Okay, so basically an expert witness is a professional who investigates the crime to retrieve evidence. Okay, so that's more about the phases or the stages involved in from acquisition to presentation of evidence in a court of law. Okay, and that brings me to the next slide, which is on the types of digital evidence that are out there. So we have quite a number of the types of forensics that are out there. We have disk forensics, we have network, wireless, database, malware, email, we have memory, cloud, and mobile. And for example, let's say disk forensic, basically it deals with extracting data from storage media. Yeah, let's say a hard disk by searching for active, modified, or deleted files. The perpetrator may have deleted or may have modified some files on a system, and this is basically what investigators will try to look for. We also have network forensics. Network forensics, it's basically related to monitoring and analysis of computer network traffic in order to collect information and legal evidence. So, and wireless forensics, it's a sub-branch of network forensics. Its aim basically is to offer the tools needed to collect and analyze data from wireless network traffic. Yeah. So we also have database forensics. Basically, database forensics relates to the study and examination of databases and related data, metadata. Okay. So we have malware forensics. This branch deals with the identification of malicious code in order to study the payloads, viruses, and stuff like that. Yeah. So we also have email forensics, which is very common. Email forensics, it basically deals with the recovery and analysis of emails. Let's say an employee deleted an email. So this is where email forensics will come in handy. So basically it deals with the recovery and analysis of emails, including deleted emails, calendars, and contacts. Yeah. We have memory forensics, which is kind of my favorite part of digital forensics. And memory forensics deals with collecting data from system memory, system registers, RAM, in a raw format, and then carving the data from a raw dump in order to get meaningful outputs or meaningful data. Yeah. So we also have mobile forensics, and mobile forensics basically deals with the examination and analysis of mobile devices. Yeah. So it helps to achieve or retrieve a phone and SIM contacts, call logs, incoming and outgoing, SMSs, MMS, audio, videos, and etc. We also have other different categories which I've not included here. Like we have cloud forensic, which is kind of new. I recently had someone talk about blockchain forensics because of the, blockchain is an upcoming technology that's, it's an upcoming technology that most people are not quite sure how it works and stuff like that. So there was the need for professionals coming up with, creating tools and what do we call them? Methodologies for investigating issues related to blockchain. Yeah, the blockchain technology. Yeah, so those are some of the types of, or maybe categories in digital forensics. And I'll jump to the next slide where I'll talk about some common tools that you'll see out there. We have several tools. Let's say we have Celebrite. Celebrite, for example, is a very nice tool. Although not open source, it's a very nice tool for mobile forensics. We have Wireshark. Wireshark, is a packet sniffing tool, and a related tool to network forensics is Explico. Explico is a very nice, commonly known tool for network forensic analysis, whereby you can be able to reconstruct data, and stuff like that. We also have FTK Imager. FTK Imager is a very important tool, and it's free, it's open source. You can easily get it out there and try a few things here and there. FTK Imager is basically an image acquisition tool. It helps you preview and preview data. Okay. We also have Autopsy and SleuthKit. So SleuthKit is a command line tool that performs forensic analysis of forensic images of hard drives and smartphones. And now Autopsy is the GUI-based version with SleuthKit running in there behind the scenes. Okay. So what other tool? We have Volatility. Volatility is my favorite tool in memory forensics. It's quite a powerful tool for analyzing what do we call it? Memory dumps. We also have some pre-configured labs, or if we can call them operating systems. We have CSI Linux, we have SIFT Workstation. We also have Kane Forensics. These are some of the, let's say, these are some of the tools that come with some forensic tools pre-configured already. Yeah, so you can easily get this online and probably get to think around with some of these what do we call them? Forensic. You can basically use such operating systems to try the different kinds of digital forensics I've talked about. You can try memory forensics. You can try disk forensics. You can try Wireshark. You can easily get it in. I am assuming most of you guys use Kali Linux, Parrot operating system. You'll get it there, and so on and so forth. So with that, I think that brings me to the end of my presentation. And I have a few resources that I've listed here. Okay, digital forensic resources are not quite many out there, but we do have some good websites and repositories where you can get free knowledge on the same. We have SANS Institute normally has good posters on digital forensics. I think you can get over 40 posters in their website if you want to learn more about digital forensics. I've also included my GitHub account. I share a lot of notes actually on digital forensics from time to time. So you can probably check out my GitHub. I think I'll share my PowerPoint slide in the GitHub repo. We also have EC Council. EC Council offers very nice training on digital forensic. They have a course called CHFI, which is I think it's certified hacking forensic investigator. Yeah, and they do also have very nice blogs on digital forensics, so you can probably check out their website. We also have Diva. You can check her website. She normally shares a lot of content on digital forensics, upcoming webinars, websites, free websites that you can get into and start learning stuff on digital forensics. If you're interested to hear like, let's say like a digital, like what an investigator, or let's say like someone like an incident responder, what they do on a typical, day-to-day activities, you can listen to this episode from Darknet Diaries. I think it's called Cloud Hopper. The guy, very nice story. You can probably listen to it and learn something from it. Yeah. So I've also included my link. Should you want to reach me out, you can find me on Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter. And any other platform, basically, you can get me through this link. And thank you so much for your time. And thank you. Unless someone has a question, I give the floor to you, Nancy.
Okay, thank you so much. Maybe I'll check, let me check if we have questions. If there are any questions, please feel free. You can just jot them down in the chat box and I'll be happy to read the questions to you. But can I get your Twitter link? Someone is asking for your Twitter link.
Oh yeah, sure. I'll share it in a few.
Okay. The rest, everyone is saying thank you, and it was a great presentation. I totally second that. Thank you so much. I believe myself, I've learned quite much, considering I don't know much about forensics, but I have definitely picked a thing or two. So yeah, he has already shared his Twitter link. So, okay, Sam has asked, you mentioned about Keylogger. Any help on that?
Okay, so Sam, if I got your question right, what exactly would you like to know about Keylogger? What's the Keylogger about? Okay. Keylogger is basically like let's say, how do I describe it in a very simple way? It's like a script or a small program that you can install it or maybe run it in a system, in someone's system. And everything that they do, you can be able to collect their keystrokes. Yeah, let's say, for example, I go to Twitter and I try sending it into my account. Someone on the other end will be looking at the keystrokes that I'm keying in, let's say my email and my password, and they can use that to their advantage. And they can log in and do stuff. I think that's the easiest way I can express that. I don't know if it's clear. Awesome. So I'm seeing another question from Dodman. On disk forensic, what is the best tool to help recover lost data? So we have quite a number of tools that you can use to recover data on Linux. And let's say like in Kali Linux, we have a tool called DD. We have quite a number of tools for it's called data carving. We have DD, we have Foremost, we have there's another tool called let me type it here. I think it's called DDC. I think it's called that way. Let's see. Yeah, I've actually done a blog on tools that you can use to carve data. Probably I can share the link here. You can read it more and try a few stuff in there. Let me share the link.
Okay, I can see there's another question.
Okay.
Someone has, Tish has asked, okay, let me check. Are there different forensic kits or just one for all users?
Sorry?
Okay,
Question.
he asked,
Okay.
the question is, are there different forensic kits or just one for all users?
Okay, if I got your question right, are there different forensic kits for? Okay, let's say for example, just a moment, let me paste this link here. So let's say for example, let me go back to my screen share. Hey, can you be able to see my screen? Can someone be able to see the screen?
Oh yeah, sure.
Oh yeah. So Tish, we have different, like I mentioned, we have different tools. Some are specifically for doing some specific stuff. Let's say, for example, volatility is a tool that is used specifically for memory forensics. Okay. We have Celebrite, which is specifically a tool for mobile, and nowadays I'm seeing also, I think it's cloud forensics. We have Wireshark, which basically is for network analysis. And I think if you talk about the kits, you know, like one tool that has almost everything, you can probably look at any of these three operating systems. We have SIFT. SIFT is my favorite. SIFT includes a bunch of tools that you can use for different kinds of investigations. CSI Linux, I've not used it quite much. You'll find Kane is very common. You'll probably get people or maybe forensic investigators using it as a live boot on a flash disk to acquire data or acquire evidence from a victim. Let me call it a victim computer or stuff like that. I don't know if I answered your question correctly. Tish? So, any YouTube channels you can advise we check on some forensic analysis showcases. Okay, let me see. Just a moment. Yeah, so I don't know who was asking that question. Yeah, but on my GitHub repository, I have quite some. I have actually a lot of resources, some of which have not yet included yet, but I've tried listing some of the resources, like where you can learn digital forensic for free, some sample memory samples you can try. When you want to learn, let's say, memory forensic, we have a site called Digital Copper, which has a lot of forensic images that you can try with tools like, FTK Imager, Autopsy. We have cell phone dumps. If you want to do mobile forensics, you can look at that website. We have a site also that has a lot of network packet captures that you can investigate and try learn stuff. If you're looking for malware samples to, learn malware forensics or malware analysis, you can probably look at some of these sites. If you're looking for forensic tool testing images, you can probably look at these sites as well. I think I'll add more resources tonight. I have quite a lot of resources that you can use. You can also check out this link. I think it's, let me see. Yeah, you can check this website as well. I'll share the link. Yeah, she normally shares a lot of stuff from free and affordable training. You can read some, if you're interested in digital forensic events, certifications, resources, training, websites, and webinars, probably I can share this link as well. You can explore that in your own free time. It has quite a lot of resources you can use to learn digital forensic and incident response. So will evidence still be admissible in court if you use exploits, CVEs to acquire it? So will evidence still be admissible in court if you use exploits? Leo, I am thinking you're asking this question in the dimension, let's say like you are a penetration tester, or you are like trying to break into a, into a company like with permission. Is that what you mean? Or do you mean like, let's say a black hat who is exploited or using a CVE to gain access to maybe a system? Yeah. Leo, I'm also seeing another question. After being attacked by a ransomware and all files are encrypted, do you recommend the whole system to be formatted, or what's your take? Okay. Interesting question. People have different opinions. I think here's my opinion. I read from a certain book. I have not come across such an incident, but here's my take. Personally, I will create an exact copy of the same data that was encrypted, and I will keep it. Yeah, I will keep it, and probably okay. I'll format the system next. I'll keep the data. Reason being, you'll find basically after maybe let's say like 4 years, 2 years, you get like, there are people who publish let's say ransomware decryption keys, or let's say on Twitter or dark forums. You can basically now use those keys, even if it's after 4 years, to decrypt back your data. Let's say the company did not have any other backup for that data. It's not quite advisable to format it completely, because you might need it at one point in time because of stuff to do with auditing. Yeah. So my take is I will create an exact copy of the same and keep it. And one day, one time, probably the decryption keys will be released. Like I think it was last month or like 3 weeks ago. There were some decryption keys for some ransomware that were released on Twitter. And let's say if you had a copy that was encrypted, you'd basically use it to decrypt your files back to the original state. Yeah. So let's say acquiring evidence from an iPhone using, let's say acquiring evidence from an iPhone using jailbreak. Well, Let's see. How do you go about that? I don't think okay, Leo, I don't think I have a clear answer for your question because I have not tried delving into mobile forensics. So probably I'll give you a good answer about that sometime later on WhatsApp, if that's okay. Okay, awesome. So any other questions?
Steve, let me just help you with the questions so
Yeah.
that maybe you don't miss others.
Okay.
So someone had asked, let me get to that question, is a bit, so Harriet had asked, from a ransomware attack, how is digital forensics conducted?
So after being attacked by ransomware and all the files encrypted, are you talking about that question? Do you recommend the whole system to be formatted? Are you talking about the question?
Oh, okay. I think she had asked 2 questions, so maybe I'll move to the next one.
Okay.
How is the job market? Is it more of gigs or is it full-time?
Well, it depends on. I will say it depends on the organization you're working with. Let's say if you are a forensic investigator working with the government or the private sector, it entirely depends. Like there are some companies who have specific. Okay, let me say we have some companies that offer forensic consultancy. So let's say that there's been an incident in a certain company. The team are called upon to start the investigation process and stuff like that. I don't know if I answered you correctly. Hello.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So please, I joined late due to circumstances. Okay. Someone who is asking for the recording, I think you can get it from Shihak's YouTube channel. He hasn't answered this. From ransomware attack, how is digital forensic conducted? So, okay. So let's say in a company, let's say like a server has been attacked by ransomware. So what you basically do, we talked about the 9 phases. And the first phase is basically what you'll do immediately after an incident has occurred. So it's not advisable for, let's say, the IT guy to disconnect or power off the server, because basically what you need to do first of all is try to disconnect it from the network in order to prevent further spread of the ransomware attack. And so after that, the patient, or I will call it the victim server, now forensic investigators will come in and they will start collecting. I talked about volatile evidence, yeah. So this is where stuff like memory forensics comes in, because how will I express this? So when forensic investigators come, they will collect the volatile data from let's say the RAM, so that they can be able to analyze. Let's say if it's the case of a ransomware attack, there's normally the the encryption and the decryption keys that might have been left behind in the or stored in the RAM. Yeah. So this is very important. So when you power off the system and power it on back again, you see that volatile data has been lost already, and you can not be able to, if you wanted to decrypt the files, you cannot be able to do that. So it has to be steps, like I talked about the 9 steps. If I can go back to them, that is yeah, this phase. So basically what you'll do in the first phase is very important. In that case, you should not power off the system. You just basically need to disconnect it from let's say internet, so that you can prevent the ransomware attack from spreading throughout the other systems in the network. Yeah. So I don't know if I answered that correctly.
Okay, I think we have like one last question.
Okay.
Caleb has asked, how do you make a copy of the encrypted data?
How do you make a copy of the encrypted data? Is very easy. Using a tool like, let me go back to the tools. Using a tool like FTK Imager, it doesn't matter if data has been encrypted or not. You can still be able to make a forensic copy of the encrypted data or the encrypted hard drive. I think if time allows, Nancy, maybe we can have another session where we can do image acquisition, like a practical session. Let's say like an hour session on image acquisition. I'll have both an encrypted system and just a normal system. We try acquire the images, and I take you through the process of how you actually collect data or evidence. Okay.
Yes, sure.
Awesome.
I'm sure we can arrange for that.
Awesome.
So maybe if we don't have any other question, we might end the session in the next few minutes. But before that, I would love to mention we have Lawrence on call. So thank you for joining us. If you would love to say something, Lawrence, I would love to give you the chance to. We also have Cliff, who was our very first trainer, who took us through for this year anyway, and you have been quite the support for us. Thank you so much, Cliff, for joining us also. So let me see if that's a question. Okay, we have one last question. How is digital forensics carried on mobile devices? How is digital forensics carried on mobile devices? I don't know if that question is clear.
Okay, so basically, how will you go about? Let me see that question again. How will you go about, acquiring evidence from a mobile device is by using? Okay, I don't know of a free open source tool that can be able to acquire or maybe demonstrate how to acquire evidence from a phone, but we do have a product by Celebrite called UFED, which is quite costly. I would have, but it's pretty much similar to how you'll acquire maybe data from, or rather evidence from from a hard drive. Okay, so just plug it in. I don't know how I'll explain this. I think I'll need to demonstrate this in the next session. But basically, how you'll acquire evidence from a hard drive is how you'll acquire evidence from a mobile phone. Now we have someone who has interacted with Celebrate. Oscar, will you mind helping me answer that question?
Hello everyone.
Hi.
Hi. Like in terms of mobile forensics, so I worked with a firm where we extracted there is an incident that occurred in a scene. So someone brings the phone and then states what is to be extracted. For example, the call logs, the SMSs, and maybe the WhatsApp within a certain period. So what you have to do, you have to follow, let's say the investigating officer, what he states wants from the phone or the storage media, drone, etc. So for the mobile phone, what you have to do is just simple. You just have to enable USB debugging, and just turn on the airplane mode, and make the mobile phone not to sleep. Just allow the stay awake settings. Then plug in the mobile phone using the cable. There is a Celebrate cable, specific cable, but it's just like the normal charging cable. Then after that, according to the requirements, let's say you need, let's say you are told to extract SMSs and contacts. There are options. For example, the SMSs and contacts, you just have to extract the advanced logical. Okay, there are 3 extractions: advanced logical extraction, physical extraction, file system extraction. According to the requirements, you will choose the part that will apply. So the requirement you are asked to, the need, like the evidence you are required to extract from the phone determines the part or the extraction you will perform. I don't know if I'm clear, like I'm not good in explaining, because this stuff, it's wide. You cannot explain in a single. Yeah.
Yeah, we get you, Oscar. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. It's been an amazing session. Thank you also, Oscar, for sharing that with us. I'm sure the one who had asked the question, and also all of us have learned something. So thank you once again to our speaker. There's a, let me share that link. So I have shared a link to a Google form. If you would want to do a session for this, the campus program, the campus edition series, which happens every other Tuesday at 7 p.m. You can sign up. You can tell us your name, how we can reach you, and we'll be able to slot you in. You can be a student, you can be a recent graduate, you can be a professional. We are happy to host you in either case. So thank you once again, everyone, for joining in. And we're looking forward to seeing you next week on Tuesday, and we also have the community edition sessions every Thursday at 7 p.m. You can join us for that also. So thank you once again. I hope maybe I'll have trainers who have attended this session. You can sign up and I'll be happy to reach out. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Nancy. I see there are more questions. I think that you can go to our latest Twitter post and you can find Stephen on Twitter and you can ask him the remaining questions. Thank you again, Nancy, for organizing this, and thank you for coming as our guest tonight, Stephen.
Thank you guys and have a good night ahead.